How did body horror shape 80s horror movies? Imagine a world where the human body becomes a canvas for terror and transformation. That's exactly what body horror brought to the 1980s horror scene. It wasn't just about monsters lurking in the dark. It was about the very flesh and bones we take for granted. During this decade, filmmakers started using graphic visuals of bodily change to evoke fear and fascination. This trend reflected broader fears about technology, genetics, and losing control over our own bodies. In the 1980s, body horror shifted the focus from external threats to what was happening inside us. Instead of ghosts or supernatural beings, the horror was rooted in the physical vulnerability of the human form. Films showed grotesque mutations, infections, and mutilations that made viewers squirm and think about what it means to be human. These images were often shocking but also symbolic of deeper anxieties about identity and autonomy. One of the most iconic films is The Fly, released in 1986. It told the story of a scientist who slowly turns into a fly hybrid. The practical effects used to show his decay and mutation were so realistic that they became legendary. The film made audiences feel the pain and tragedy of losing oneself to transformation. Another key film was The Thing from 1982. It featured shape-shifting alien creatures that grotesquely merged with human bodies, creating scenes of visceral horror that made people distrust what they saw. Videodrome from 1983 took body horror into the realm of media and technology. It showed a man experiencing hallucinations and physical changes linked to a mysterious broadcast signal. This film connected fears about media influence and technological control with the physical body. Hellraiser from 1987 added a supernatural twist. It depicted beings who manipulate flesh and pain, blending body horror with dark fantasy. The practical effects in these movies played a huge role. Artists crafted detailed prosthetics and animatronics to make the transformations feel real. This hands-on craftsmanship made the horror more immediate and visceral. The use of practical effects was a hallmark of 1980s horror and helped these films stand out. Culturally, body horror reflected fears about medical advances, genetic engineering, and contamination. During the Cold War, nuclear fears and disease outbreaks were common themes, and these movies echoed those anxieties. They showed the body as a battleground for control, identity, and survival. Looking back, 1980s body horror is remembered for its bold visuals and willingness to push boundaries. It captured the era's mix of technological optimism and underlying dread. These films created a style of horror that was personal, shocking, and unforgettable. They continue to influence horror movies today, celebrated for their originality and the visceral thrill they delivered. So, body horror shaped 1980s horror by making the human body the main focus of fear through graphic transformations and mutations. Supported by innovative practical effects, it reflected the cultural fears of the time. This created a unique style of horror that still leaves a mark on audiences decades later.